Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Owe you an apology. I tried to make a unboxing and review video of this, which is my new OneWind hammock. It's an 11-foot hammock with a whoopee sling integrated ridgeline. It came with a underquilt as well. It's an Amazon special. I wanted to try it out, but my camera didn't feel like recording today, so we're stuck with having to use some of my B-roll footage from my phone. I was playing around with the Timelapse feature on my phone just to try to get a sense of the setup. I will say that setup was fairly simple and straightforward. This hammock is a gathered end hammock with cinch buckles instead of carabiners, and the tree straps are continuous loops, but they're flat nylon rather than being sewn loops that your carabiner hooks in. It gives you rapidly, or really much more adjustability in your hang, I have to say. It is a little bit of a learning curve, but I figured it out, I think. I do like the fact that it came with a ridgeline in play, but I'm not 100% sure how I feel about the bottom entry Bugnet, yet it takes a little bit of figuring out how to do it.
All right, as I said, we're going to bring in a little close here. All right, so this is the bottom entry Bugnet that came out of the package inside the snakeskin bag. Well, not really a snakeskin, inside the stuff sack, already mounted on the hammock. I kind of had processing problems putting that together. We'll revisit that in a second. So the cinch buckles are neat. The first time I've used this kind of suspension, I kind of like it. It's kind of hard to figure out which side is up, twisty. I don't want to introduce twist if I can help it, but it seems to be self-correcting to a certain extent. I like the fact that it's easy to adjust. It seems to bite well. So that's the hammock. The hammock span is actually supposed to be 11 feet. With the ridgeline, it's a little bit less than that. Okay, ridgeline. It appears to be an AM steel, not a blue, but an AM steel, like 7, whatever the hell it is, 32nd whoopee sling. This end, which I'm arbitrarily calling the foot, is not attached. It's just looped over the gathered end of the hammock. And again, this is a gathered end hammock with the AM steel loop at the end that goes to the cinch buckle. So that's it. So no real structure in the hammock itself. It's this kind of cool hex print poly. It does have a double sewn edge, seamed edge, and it seems like there are little ties here. How many we got? 6. There are 6 of these little ties on the outside edge, double sewn edge of the hammock. I don't know what that's for yet. It may be an accessory I don't have. No pouch or stuff sack on the hammock. Again, the hammock's just a gathered end with the AM steel going through a double sewn, well, 1, 2, 3, a quadruple sewn socket here in the end of the nylon, and it goes onto the cinch buckle here. All right, so here's the other end of the AM steel ridgeline. It's actually affixed at that buckle, and it has like a little lantern loop, kind of a prusik knot, but doesn't really lock. I don't know what that is. And it comes with a handy dandy little stuff sack. Seems to be made out of the same nylon as the hammock. Again, I don't know if I have this hammock ordered right, arbitrarily head foot. Again, I haven't seen any printing or anything on this yet. Oh, I'm a liar. There it is. That's printing. So normally for me, that would be my left-hand side, just because arbitrarily I decide that. So that would be my head, and that would be my foot. Well, you know, I did it together right. But again, the hammock's fairly wide. Pretty good span. I could lay sideways in it, no problem. So I guess next we'll play with some tightening, and maybe should we figure out the Bugnet or the underquilt? Let's do the underquilt next, because it's the more crucial area.
Alright, so again, I'm just going to do the time lapse of me trying to figure out how to put the underquilt on. Not a whole lot of really detailed feedback on that. It's a bungee carabiner hook end. It initially seemed like it was very high and very narrow compared to the hammock, but as you can see, once I threw my fat self in there, it normalized out pretty well, and I had a good double hand span below my buttocks. And now I'm trying to figure out the Bugnet, so let's talk about that.
Okay, so on the Bugnet, it seems to just gather at the end of the hammock. just below the cinch and where the am steel goes into the gathered fabric. It does have a drawstring gather at each end. This is a smaller gather than the other gather. So I gather that this gather is supposed to be the foot gather, which lends credence to my luck for arbitrarily deciding that this is the foot end. Now, there seem to be a defined ridge line in the Bugnet, and oddly enough, there appear to be some kind of a tie or a loop there, but it was not hooked to the am steel ridge line. I don't know if it needs to be. We'll figure that out in a minute when I actually get in it and play with it. And again, this gather is much larger. So again, I gather that this gather is the gather that moves. So we're going to shore that back up there. We're going to assume this sewn portion with the loops is the ridge line, and that the gather at the bottom is the entry. So we're going to figure out how this works in a minute.
Well, big shock, it works exactly like I thought it worked. You enter through the gather at the bottom, close it up, and sit. It does seem to want to ridge, and I didn't ridge line it yet, but I'll figure that out here. I'll let Chad explain it.
Okay, so here's what we figured out. The Bugnet is great when you need it. The rest of the time, it's crapola. Don't have it out. That's what I'm doing. So, where does it go? Where does it hide? Where does it live? No one seems to know. Where it goes is right here. Now this is the double-ended stuff bag that everything nominally lives in. So during the setup of the hammock, this is what I've been tuning. This end of the am steel ridge line is affixed to the hammock. Can't really see it because the way things are put together right now, I apologize. But this is affixed to the hammock. It passes through my little organizer bag here. Ridgeline continues down to the whoopee portion, and it is just looped over the gathered end here to hold there. So that is the only thing that's attached on this end of the hammock. And then you got the hammock, and the underquilt comes back over this way. All right, so we saw how all that's together. What this is doing, let's see if I can get this in frame and show you. All right, so inside of this, right now, nominally when you take the whole hammock down, this is the stuff sack that everything goes into. But right now, the entirety of the Bugnet is stuffed in there. So that's where it lives. And this is what I'm calling the head of the hammock. So this just gets cinched down, and this line should be tight, should be tucked away. I'm sorry, don't look at my sloppy hammock, it's messy. It's not neat and tidy, and I don't like it. So we'll fix all that up. But that's up. And it actually acts as a rain break, too. So any rain that comes down here is going to get caught in this cinch or in the Bugnet, because I don't care if the Bugnet gets wet. But then it goes into the hammock and the underquilt. So, again, that's the hammock. I'm happy with where the slack is set now. It is a kind of a... The hammock is much bigger than the underquilt. So it's kind of got to get flopped over. And that'll be a lot better once I have my pillow and my whoopee and all my creature comforts stuffed in there. So that's the hammock put up, and I don't hate it.
Well, since I don't hate it, I figured I'd go ahead and put the cover Rainfly up. It's also a OneWind product. It's a 12-foot ridgeline, or external ridgeline shadefly. And I apologize now. It's in its snakeskins, but I've had it up recently, and I kind of rushed to put it away dry before the rain came. And I didn't really roll it correctly, so my put out of it is a little bit delayed. I normally only use the 4 corner stakes. Sometimes I tie off to environmental stuff, but so it went up pretty quick. Again, it went up slower than it should have because I packed it poorly.
Like I said, sorry, this went together kind of bad on the construction because I put it away like a knucklehead. But as you saw, I hope, the whole shadefly has snakeskins for either half. So first the foot end gets covered and then the head end gets covered. And then that both goes into a double-sided bag, and it's literally just a length of paracord, goes just above the tops. Corners get staked out, and I can stake it out more securely than that. I can put poles out. If I'm around stuff, I can even tie this off on other poles and have bigger things. But at a minimum, setup, this is where we are. Like I said, at a minimum, we are inside the hammock. We are inside the cover. And this is our little room. It's a room without a view right now because we're not even in porch mode or anything. But now that I've figured out how what this hammock wants to go together, I figure I can have it up 5-10 minutes. The hardest part about a new hammock is always figuring out where all the things got to go and the things got to tie, and just figuring out how it goes. Again, I can get my shade up and my rain cover up in minutes. More if I pack it right the last time I had it. I didn't do that so good. Yeah, that's where we are. So I'll be honest with you, I'm thinking about getting a little thing to hook you guys right there on my ridge line, so I can just, do hammock thoughts, chats. We'll see.